Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Bionicle 2015 video. This one is basically going to be a kind of overview look over the three larger Toa sets from the new line. And they are obviously Tahu Master of Fire, Kopaka Master of Ice, and Onua Master of Earth. These are the $20 Toa sets, or where I'm from, obviously Ireland, they're 18 to 20 euro sets. These are the bigger sets in the line. And then the next video I do is going to be my review of the cheaper Toa sets, which are Gali, Liwa, and Pohatu. I still have to get Pohatu and Liwa, but when I get them I will do that video. For now, I focused on getting these ones first, and that's what I'm going to do. I won't be getting the Lord of Skull Spiders or the other protectors, other than the Protector of Ice that I have, just because I don't think I'll get enough out of them. Maybe I'll get maybe one or two of the protectors if I'm like really looking for a new Bionicle set, and it's been a while waiting for the new kind of summer sets to come out. But other than that, this is the plan anyway. So yeah, this is going to be an overview of these three guys, the biggest sets. So, first of all, let's just take a look at them as a group. They look really great, these are as the bigger sets. Straight away you get the idea, you know, Onua, the big bulky one. Tahu is kind of like, he basically looks like a normal kind of Hero Factory set, just a lot more armor, and he really looks like that leader character. He's not so big that he's kind of really bulky, and he's not maybe as kind of crazy armored and like bulky in other areas like Kopaka with the shield. He really feels like the leader. And then with Kopaka, he just looks awesome. Like, he looks like a Spartan basically, with the really cool selection of armor pieces, like in the shoulder areas, the big shield, the kind of spear, really, and some of the bigger armor pieces on his legs. He just looks great. He has the most armored legs of all of the Toa. So yeah, that's what the general look over the sets. Now let's do some brief comparisons to obviously the originals. I don't at this point in time have any of the originals. I did have some of the sets back in, like, I think 2001 when they first came out, but right now I can only really go off the card. So this is the original Onua, looking at his card, and you can really see just how spindly the characters were, compared to like how bulky this one is. He still has that kind of hunched over neck kind of design, because there's like an extra piece in this guy's neck to make it kind of come out a little bit more than the other ones, rather than just standing up straight. So I kind of like that, and it makes sense that he is the kind of biggest one because he's the Toa of Earth, and he's obviously digging a lot, so he needs to be powerful. But yeah, that's Onua. Now let's look at the mask, and in this line they don't call them like Kanohi masks or anything like that. They don't even give them masks individual names, but the original Onua mask was the Kanohi Pakari, and this is obviously the new Pakari here. Let me just take it off actually. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks kind of like a ice hockey kind of goalie mask a little bit, so that's pretty cool. And obviously a lot of people compared the design of Kopaka to kind of like an ice hockey goalkeeper, so if this ever came in white, that would be pretty interesting. But yeah, there's the comparison between the two, and you do really get the sense of like where the design actually comes from. You can see all the little vents down the kind of side. You can see the vents at the top, the kind of two eye holes. They both do kind of look like ice hockey goalkeeper masks. This one just it's got a little bit more detail, but you can see where they come from, and I like both pretty equally, so that's pretty cool. And here it is in gold. You obviously get the gold mask with each one, and I think the idea is that this is just a standard mask, just of the color, and then this is really what grants the Toa all of their powers, basically. Like, that they're not powerful until they have their gold mask, really. But yeah, that's that. And Onua comes with a kind of lime green skull spider. I think it's called spring green, the color of this Lego. On camera it looks like it's glowing almost white, but yeah, it's just really kind of light lime green. It's a really odd color. But anyway, next up we have Tahu, And yeah, in terms of comparisons to old, you can just, as I said, you can see how much armor he has on, compared to, say, how, again, spindly these old Bionicles look. Here's Tahu from 2001. You can see his arm was just this piece with two Technic rods coming out, and his other arm was just a sword. So you can really see just how this, to me, looks better. It's more articulated and stuff like that in these original sets. And then the mask for Tahu is obviously the Kanohi How. Looks pretty cool. Compared to the new How, let me just take it off. As you can see here, just dropped it, but yeah, as you can see here, I think it's a really cool design for the upgrade. I probably prefer the new mask to the old one. Just, it's a little bit too round, I think, on this one. It's still a really cool looking mask, but you can definitely see where the change in design comes from. You've still got the little vent at the top, sort of here. The two eye holes, obviously. 3 vents on the kind of cheek section, but only 2 here, but the same kind of general spacing. And then a kind of mouth kind of section that's kind of big in the middle on both. But I like the kind of lines on the side of this mask here. It's pretty cool. And then here is the gold How, or Mask of Fire. Looks pretty cool. But yeah, let's put the red one back on. And then last but not least, we have Kopaka. And again, looks really cool, really bulky. Probably my favourite of all of the sets. I haven't got Liwa or Pohatu, as I said, but I don't think any of them are going to eclipse how much I love Kopaka. But anyway, here is what Kopaka originally looked like back in 2001. Again, spindly, you know, didn't have arms, had a sword in one hand and a circular shield in the other hand, which is very different compared to the 2 sword pieces that make up a kind of interesting looking shield. And yeah, the big thing that just comes across is definitely just how unarmored these ones look compared to these ones. And then the mask was called the Kanohi Akaku, and here it is, the original one, compared to our new one up here. Whoop, there's Kopaka falling over a little bit. But yeah, this one probably looks the most similar to the original. This one's obviously very round in general shape, and this one's kind of more square in shape, but in terms of hitting all of the kind of main points, this is the most clearly obvious one. You can see the kind of telescope-based kind of binocular thing. It's got 3 kind of sections. Again, 3 sections here. The mouth, again, a little kind of triangle of 3 circles. Same here. 1 eye hole. And then the 2 vents at the top are horizontal here, but vertical in this one. I think it's a really cool advancement of the design from 2001 to 2015. Looks great, in my opinion. And yeah, here's the gold Akaku, or Mask of Ice. Looks really cool. But yeah, let's put the white one back on. And have Kopaka stand up again. And yeah, you also get a lime green skull spider with Tahu, and you get this kind of, I think it's gunmetal silver skull spider with Kopaka. And I think there are only 3 different colours to skull spiders. I think in like Liwa or Pohatu you get like a kind of navy one, but I'm not really sure. Right now, of the sets, all the sets that I have, I only have those, the green and the silver one. Skull spiders, you know, you get 1 in every set. It's cool that if you get every set in the line, you have the Lord of Skull Spiders and 12 kind of minion skull spiders. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's focus a little bit more on, I suppose, the sets individually from here on out. I started with Onua in terms of going through the original kind of overview, so I'll start with him in terms of more focus. Okay, so here's Onua in more depth. As you can see, he's got the biggest chest plate of all of the Toa. It's really big. Like when I first opened the box and like this piece was not in any of the bags, it was just a separate piece on its own. It was like, whoa, this is big. He's also one of the, apart from Kopaka, he's the only Toa who has stickers. These 2 designs on his chest plate are stickers. He's the only Toa who has stickers for the chest plate. Kopaka has stickers for his kind of thigh pieces, but I haven't used them. I don't see the need. But yeah, you can see really cool general kind of color scheme of black, purple, gold, and a little bit of translucent purple as well, or transparent purple. And it's a really cool color scheme. Black and gold is great. Black and purple is great. The three together, even better. Looks fantastic, and he also looks pretty good when you have his gold mask on. But I think I prefer the just standard color masks. You know, I love that you get the gold masks, but I just prefer to have the normal color mask on in general. And yeah, the key thing with I suppose the new sets is you get this new armor piece here. It's really cool. It basically works as the chest plate for the protectors, and then it's the main armor bit for most of the Toa. And on these bigger Toa sets, you get a lot more of them. Like, so with the Tahu set that I just put away, you saw like 8 of them on the set. With this guy, you have 4. Plus, he uses a lot of these shovel pieces for extra bits of armor. It's really cool. Same level of articulation on basically all of these sets in terms of, you know, like ball joint at the hip, knee kind of goes back and forth, and you can see the way the knee joint is sort of done. It gives you a little bit of range of motion left to right, but a knee is not meant to bend that way. It's meant to bend front and back, so I like that. And then he's the only Toa who has different feet with these kind of bigger, wider, kind of more animalistic feet almost. And then, you know, he's got good range of motion in the shoulders, elbows, and wrist. And then he's got a really interesting kind of neck in that he does have an extra piece here to, I think what the idea, the instructions tell you is just to kind of keep his head kind of above these armor bits. But what I tend to do with it is just kind of like tilt that bit forward and kind of have his head poking out a bit, so it's more like the original Onua with the kind of almost hunchback design that his neck is sticking forward. So I quite like that. These armor bits here can be posed a bit, so depending on what way you want to move the arm, you can move these up out of the way. You can move them, angle them back and forward. But here he is from the back. And again, I like that the new Bionicles come with a way to kind of block a lot of the back and make him look a bit more armoured. But here's the gearbox, as you can see. Got gears left and right, so both sides move. And that's very simple, just twist it and the arms move. Very simple. Yeah, you can sort of see from the back how the kind of why he's so wide compared to the rest of them, in that the gearbox kind of ends around here. This is the part of the gearbox here, and then you just extend it out with like bits like this, this, and this, to the point where instead of having his like shoulder joint be somewhere here, it's all the way over here, and that's where the kind of bulk comes from and how they managed to have such a big chest plate on him. It's really nicely done. What else is there to talk about here? I suppose actually it's really interesting. I'll actually just take the chest plate off for a minute. You can just see it there as it's kind of hanging off. It uses 2 ball joint connections to attach on, and Onua is definitely probably the most interesting build of all of these sets. If you're used to any sort of these Hero Factory builds, Onua is very different in that, as you can see, just adding on like these sections here that are huge to allow for the kind of claw pieces to go so far out to the left and right over his shoulders because they are so wide. It's really cool, and you can also kind of pose them here as well. Like there's the joint here and here can both be posed. Obviously this is a little bit limited because the chest plate is on in front of them, but pretty cool nonetheless. I suppose I'll just focus on the headpiece with Onua here. It looks really cool. I suppose one of my problems maybe with the original Bionicle is that the headpiece without a mask didn't look great. And I think this looks actually pretty cool. It looks really kind of robotic. It looks great. And obviously the brain stock is there for one of the action features, which is just that, if I can get this on camera properly, it's just that if you basically hit down on the back of the brainstem, it shoots the mask off. Very basic. All of the sets have that, I think, except Lord of Skull Spiders, just because of the way he's built. He doesn't really have that. But yeah, really cool build. And then his weapon is this kind of hammer made from again, some of those armor bits, but they're used more in a hammer sense here. And this is pretty cool. You know, you can't really do much with it. Maybe wish the handle was a little bit weird. Just in general about the kind of CCBS system, I do find it weird, and I'm not really sure what the exact reasonings behind this were. But why isn't the hole in the fist like all the way through? Like, you have to make the weapon held in his hand by basically plugging a bit into the top, plugging a bit into the bottom, and you can't just plug a bit all the way through. It only holds a certain amount. You can't actually push it all the way through. So that's it's pretty interesting, and just means you're a little bit limited when it comes to weapons and stuff like that, and how you kind of customize weapons. Like, you can't really have him suddenly, okay, this is his hammer, and then have him hold it like by the end or stuff like that, because you have to kind of make it a bit differently then. So that's interesting, but it works. Final thing on Onua I probably want to show is just the what's basically called adrenaline mode. It's like a lot of the Toa had before. I think they mainly introduced it in the Toa Nuva for the 2002 or 3 wave. It's basically kind of an extreme sports mode, you know, just you kind of transform some of their parts into something different. For him, it's basically just you take his hammer apart, you put the other 2 shovel bits in his hands as kind of digging claws, and then what way is it? You attach this onto his back. There's a point on the back you can attach it to. Yeah, there. They specifically give you a place to hold it. So you put that there, and what is it? Yeah. You can tilt this up and away, and then just have this kind of this piece sticking out the back. So there's a place to hold the rest of the parts while he's using those in his hands. And the idea, I think, is that you know, when he puts his golden mask on, this is his kind of like super mode, basically, where he starts to use his claws to dig, and this is where the action actually comes in more than the hammer. In that he specifically his weapon is one hammer, and so why are both sides of his body geared? But it makes sense for this adrenaline mode that this is why they're geared. So that's pretty cool, and yeah, that's Onua. Really like him. Most fun build, most unique looking probably of all the Toa, but not quite my favourite. But we'll go to Tahu next. Okay, so here is Tahu, the leader of the Toa. As ever, they always have the red guy be the leader, as is Power Rangers fashion and so on. And yeah, it's very interesting that he's the same price point as Onua, just because just by looking at him you're like, oh, Onua is so much bigger. This guy just looks like a fairly standard Toa. But you kind of quickly see like where the kind of same budget kind of comes from, in that he's got a lot more armor bits. Like he's got the kind of full chest pieces as his lower leg armor, and he's got 6 of these kind of gold armor bits. He's got some big swords in his hands. And he's got a kind of unique gearbox build, in that he's got these kind of posable swords on the back and extra swords. So that's really cool. But yeah, in general, I think he looks awesome. As I said, the mask looks amazing, the new How. And then the placement of armor works really well for me. Just the way they use these kind of armor bits on the side, and how usually what you do with these armor bits is you kind of put them on in such a way where it kind of becomes a covering for like the whole armor bit like this, but because his legs are so long, they use these extender pieces. You actually put them on the other way, and it kind of covers up more of that extended leg joint. So that's really cool, and I like that. And then you can see I think he's one of the only Toa who uses these armor bits for his kind of wrist guards, which I quite like. And then the interesting thing with him is that he and a lot of the Toa use this kind of double ball joint kind of system here for the kind of shoulder joint, in that it's all connected to the gear, so like both ball joints move, but they use the outer one as the place where the actual shoulder connects, and then they use the first one as a basically positioning for even more armor, so you can maneuver his arm around while still positioning this piece of armor as well. That's really cool. It kind of, when you really wanted to, you can kind of have it locked down kind of over this armor. It kind of restricts, it doesn't really restrict actually the gear function because the two of them are moving at the same time. So that's really cool. Like you have it up there. So I quite like the way that armor is done. He looks really cool just with the amount of... The gold is kind of like perfectly placed on Tahu, I think. Maybe if there was like some sort of a tiny armor connection bit there, like I know the Hero Factory like H things, like it'd be cool if they had just a kind of almost blank one of them. It's just like a little gold circle you could put there, would add a little bit of gold to the lower legs. But other than that, it's pretty cool. The only problem with looking at him from the back is obviously that his lower legs look a little bit bad from the back. They could do it some sort of armor connection on the back, but without doing like a whole Kopaka leg build, it's really difficult to do that. But I'll get into that in a minute. And then in terms of how he's built, you can sort of see that the main difference here compared to the other Toa is just that while the other Toa you usually would just use a kind of plain bit to bring the shoulders out this far, he actually uses this bit where you actually connect an extra bit on that's used for the posability of these extra swords. And it works really well, actually. And he again, like the other Toa, have back armor connectors. His gear function is both sides. But yeah, the key thing with him is just that he's got these posable swords in the back, and just you can sort of see they're actually quite articulated. You can fold them up like that. You can tilt them to the side, and then you can tilt them out again. It's pretty cool, you know. The animation seems to have it kind of like that, where he kind of has them sticking up most of the time, but it works pretty well. You can, at the same time, just have them down if you don't want them all over the place. Yeah, that's primarily Tahu. Swords look really cool. I love this giant sword bit, and you've got you can obviously replace this with a different one if you want to use it for like mocking or something like that. But here's his fire bits. Yeah, other than that, one thing I will say is that he's one of because he has so many leg extender bits, he uses them in his ankle as well as up here by the hip. When you try and like just move his leg try to move his leg at the hip just by kind of holding onto the bottom, it tends to more than often like disconnect from the extender bit rather than actually move, first of all. So you do have to kind of hold the leg up by the extender to actually move his legs. Not a big problem, but you know, in posable action figures, you know, you don't want to have to like think so hard about how you actually go about posing the figure. But other than that, it's pretty good. And yeah, interesting choice as well, just with regards to like, for the most part, he's solid red, and then he's just got a couple of transparent bits, like here by his wrists, and then up here by the top of his shoulders. It's pretty interesting. I'd almost like to see how he looks kind of all red or all kind of that transparent orange. Because I know if you order anything at this point in time from the Lego's website, anything at all, not even Bionicle, you do get a free, basically, Bionicle pack, and included in that is a transparent orange version of Tahu'S mask, which is the same kind of transparency as this. So I think that would look really cool on him, actually, as a kind of even more alternate mask than just his golden mask. But yeah, let's show off Tahu'S adrenaline mode to end off this. And so what you do with that is just you take his big swords out of his hands. This is where you see what this bit is for. Let me just put it away. And then what you do is you have to take this off, first of all, because it doesn't connect there. You see the sawtooth pattern on the kind of sides of the blades here. You actually just connect those two together. And they just stay together like that. That's fine. It's just put a little bit of pressure trying to separate them, and they do fall apart. So this part just goes here to fully connect them together so it stays together. And then as you can see, he's got the two pegs here. And then what you do is you just basically connect those two pegs into the two of the things on his legs, and it works out as his fire surfboard, if I could get him on properly. There we go. And there you go. You can sort of see him on his fire surfboard, but that's not the full extent of the adrenaline mode, because this is where these swords in the back come into play. You just pull these two out, and you put them in his hands, and he still has swords to use while he's using his giant swords for adrenaline mode, so that's pretty cool. And it just looks really cool, like it makes for a really nice surfboard type thing. It's just really cool. It's just like, no need for the sound effects. But yeah, I just like these extra features. That he comes with 4 swords. He's got like probably one of the coolest adrenaline modes with this lava surfboard. He just looks great, and rightfully so is the leader character. But I still would say he's probably, of the 3 more expensive sets, probably bottom of the 3. As we'll get into in Kopaka next. And last but not least of the larger Toa is Kopaka, Master of Ice, and here he is. Yeah, as you can see, his main weaponry is this kind of ice spear type thing, kind of harpoon, which looks pretty cool, and this big giant shield here that kind of spins in his arm. Straight away, one problem I have is just the way it's connected to his hand. It's basically just blue pin in this black bit and just links directly into his hand. What you kind of want more about where he holds it is kind of like he's hold a thing that is connected to the shield that way, so it's more naturally held. I don't have the pieces, because I don't have that many Hero Factory sets or Technic sets to make the kind of connector that I'd really want, whereby he holds it there and then maybe it swivels around this way and maybe he's able to swivel that way as well. But as it is, it works fine. You can get some poses out of it. It's just a little bit more difficult to do that. But yeah, I'll take the shield off so it's easier to actually show him off. But yeah, he is a really cool looking set. As you can see, he's straight away very unique, kind of like Onua has big shoulder pieces, which is very cool. But does it in a different way, and a way I really like, because what these figures do, these Bionicles do, is basically they attach the gearbox to a Hero Factory skeleton from the back. But so you still actually have the Hero Factory basically shoulder connection pieces sticking out, as you'll see on a bunch of the other sets. But Kopaka uses that basically as a connector for his kind of giant shoulder connection piece, while he does the kind of gearbox feature at the back. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, he is one of the Toa, as you can see from the back, who only has the gear function on one side, that being his right side, as you can see here. Well, not so well. There we go. And you can also see from this angle what actually creates the friction, where you can actually pose the arm in such a way where it doesn't just activate the gear function, in that if without these 2 gears here, the arm, if you put it up here, would just probably flop down. But because, to do that, it would actually have to activate these gears and activate these gears. There's enough friction where you can actually still hold poses without the gear function just activating, like was a problem originally in Bionicle. But yeah, again, I continue to like the back piece protecting the back of the body. And then with Kopaka, the most interesting thing probably about his build overall is that he has front and back armor for his legs, and that they actually put one of these new armor pieces on the front of his leg, as well as connecting a bit to the back. And they do that by basically connecting these kind of grey pieces onto both sides of the leg, and having armor on the front and back. It's a little bit bulky overall, but I think it works out quite well when posing. Then he's got much bigger thigh guards than a lot of the other characters. So his big kind of, I suppose, visual feature is just that his legs are a lot armored than the rest of the Toa. There are stickers you can put here if you want, but because none of the other Toas have designs on their armor apart from the chest, I didn't see the point in doing that. But yeah, and then again, I like the way the shoulders are bulky, the chest is bulky, like all of the Toa, and then bulky legs. It's a different type of bulk to Onua's, which again I like. and he's just a really cool figure. Like him, mask as ever is awesome, and I think overall it's just these pieces here, these shoulder pieces look really great. The positioning of the colors, his gold on him is fantastic, I think. But yeah, next up we have to show his adrenaline mode. So let's put his gold mask on, and it makes basically his whole upper body is gold, and like almost all the rest of him is white. But yeah, so what we do with Kopaka for adrenaline mode is spear stays in place, and what you do is you take apart his what do you call it, shield, and you just, instead of attaching them together like the surfboard, what you do is you have pins in both of these sections, and you just attach them to his feet, and they basically are going to make these kind of ice skate sled type things, as we'll see in a minute once I get these on. Yeah, and then with regards to this black bit that's remaining, you can still just attach that onto just the side of one of them if you want to, so you're not just having little parts all over the place. And it looks really cool. Like, let me just show you. You know, it's just a cool feature, kind of like Tahu, just that some of the bigger parts become an additional feature for him. So he has these kind of ice skates, and you can get some really cool poses out of him as well because of this. So yeah, you can get some like really nice kind of poses where just like he's kind of bent, like he's kind of skiing around a corner or something like that. Yeah, it's like something like that. You can see the kind of like edges are kind of up, so you can it looks like he's going around a corner. It just really makes some really cool posing for him. So I really like Kopaka. But yeah, he definitely is probably my favorite of the Toa so far. I doubt Liwa or Pohatu is going to really change that. I like Gali, but not enough to make her my favorite. So this guy definitely is probably my favorite. Then Onua, then Tahu, then Gali for now. But I'll talk about the cheaper Toa in the next video. Final thing I want to just mention, bringing some of the other guys back in, is the point I just brought up there with Kopaka, and that's just about how friction is added to basically these systems. With Kopaka, obviously I showed you it's these two gears add friction to the system to stop the gear function from ruining posability. With Tahu, they have those two gears just in here, like basically on the front of the gearbox, but behind the kind of general torso piece. It's the same two gears, just kind of one part of this rod that goes straight through, that's part of the actual how you activate the feature, and then the other gear that's attached to that gear is one with just held in with a blue pin. So same sort of friction there, but with Onua it's different, and it's really unique because I got Kopaka first, then Onua, but it's really unique. You can sort of see that Onua has a kind of asymmetric build. You can sort of see the pieces here that yeah, it's you can see the two red pieces here, and then the piece after that is another black piece, and then after that one section has the bit where you attach his hammer to when you're not using it. The other side has this joint that's not really used for anything. It's just basically a shoulder joint for the original Bionicle, basically attached to a ball joint. And what actually happens is how it adds friction to the system is that when you actually turn the gear here, it forces this ball to move within this ball joint, and that's what adds friction to the system. I just really think that's a clever use of this system of ball joints, and to just use it for friction, nothing more. Not as a joint, it's just there to add friction to the system, so you can pose the arm and it doesn't just fall under the weight of kind of gravity. The pose doesn't just fall away with the gravity. So I think that's really awesome. And yeah, there is all of the larger Toa in their adrenaline modes to end it off. I think they're fantastic. They're They're big figures, and I just think they look amazing. Compared to, say, this is just a random Hero Factory mock basically that I made. So, you know, compared to just one of these guys, like you can see they're bigger. There's more armor, and there's more playability in my opinion. The gearbox adds so much extra to the builds on these guys, and I really like Bionicle 2015. I think is the main thing I want to say. Um, I was a little bit worried initially when they were announced to be using the CCVS, but once I heard about the gear functions and just the way the sets were actually looking in terms of the mask designs and the general look, I'm just amazed by how well Bionicle has returned. Summer sets, you know, maybe not looking the best with the villains, but the Mask Maker Akimu looks great. And yeah, I'm excited to get the last two Toa I need and do that video on the cheaper Toa to talk about them. But for now, that's been my kind of overview for the three larger Toa. If you have any questions, ask in the comments below. Other than that, that's been the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.